Hi, friends. Happy spooky season. Today we are going to talk about forgiveness. Please, please, please stay with me. Don't leave me just yet. Let me explain why this is important. I have had so many people talk to me about forgiveness and say that it's impossible for them to forgive. They've tried, it doesn't work. They don't understand why forgiveness is important because it's just letting the other person win and all these other things. And I just want to say that this is not the case. And there are so many benefits to forgiving properly. And I want to share all of those with you. So don't leave. Let's talk about it. Okay. All right. So first of all, I want to start by saying that I am a fully certified trained facilitator of the 6-phase meditation system, specializing in forgiveness. So I don't know why it's taken me this long to do this episode because I brought it up in like almost every episode so far. And I'm sure it'll come up in multiple episodes down the road too, because it's something that I'm so passionate about, mostly because I learned firsthand the benefits. So let's talk about the definition. The definition of forgiveness is the desire to let go thoughts of revenge and ill will towards the person who wronged you. Um, but I don't believe that forgiveness is as much about the person who wronged you as much as it is your own mental state. I do want to say that forgiving somebody does not mean that what they did is okay. It is not to say that their behavior is excusable. It's not to say that anything that happened is ever okay. First of all, I just want to make that clear. You know, if someone breaks into your house, you absolutely press charges and let the legal system deal with them, but you can still forgive them. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't mean that them breaking into your house is okay. And it doesn't mean you should just be like, okay, you're here, take whatever you want, help yourself, you know. No, it's not that at all. What they're doing is wrong. What they've done is wrong. We're acknowledging that and we're moving on from that. Your act of moving on from that and not holding on to that is why forgiveness is important. I came up with this metaphor and I thought it was hilarious. So I'm going to share it with you. And I basically picture somebody holding a tray. And in that tray is a pile of poop. Okay, stick with me. If you're holding a plate and this person comes up and they put poop on your plate, and you hold on to it because you're like, oh, this is wrong, this is bad, I don't want this, but you're going to hold this plate of poop. And somebody else comes up to you and they want to give you strawberries and roses and kisses and fruit and yummy food. And you're either going to accept it on the same plate and contaminate it. So no matter what they give you and how much you want it, it's just contaminated with this poop. And you're holding on to this plate with the poop on it in case that person comes back to you with more poop. You can be like, no, 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 you already gave me poop. You can't give me any more poop because I still have this poop. When realistically, go wash your hands. Go throw the poop away and wash your hands. After you've thrown the poop away, you've washed your hands, you have a clean plate. And then when people give you all the yummy good things that you want, it's not contaminated. And then you in your head know that when that person comes back or any other people come to you with poop, you can be like, no, 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 I don't want that. I've already had that. I understand what that is and I don't want it. So just because you've had it doesn't mean you have to continue to have it to avoid having it in the future. You can have it, let it go, let it not contaminate everything else, and still be aware of it. I hope I'm making sense. um, let's talk about scientific benefits of forgiveness itself. So there was a co-study done for multiple universities on people who were forced to feel forgiveness. And those resulted in them seeing hills as less steep and being able to physically jump higher, which is kind of amusing. So the act of forgiving literally lightens you mentally and physically, apparently. So part of the 6-phase meditation system was created by Vishen Lakhiani, the owner and co-founder of the creator of the Mind Valley app. And once he learned the stuff about forgiveness, he said he actually had basketball players come to him trying to learn how to forgive because they heard that they could jump higher, and it worked. I don't have the scientific proof behind it. I've just heard Vision tell the story, so I'm just prefacing that with this. You can also buy his book, The 6-Phase Meditation System, and it'll give you access to the 6-Phase Meditation System on the app. And you can deep dive into the whole system, specifically forgiveness, or you can hang out with me. I'm going to do an episode. If you haven't figured out yet, I may have dropped a few clues so far, but we're going to do Monday Mermaid meditations at least the first Monday of every month, if not more. And I think the very first Monday, we're going to do forgiveness specifically. And then afterwards, we'll do the full 6-phase, and then we'll just kind of trickle and go from there and do whatever. So if you're watching this video after its original post date, you can check out some of my other videos, specifically on YouTube if you want to see the mermaid. Otherwise, you can just listen to the meditation, whatever works for you. But that's a thing that we're going to do. Or you can buy the book. You can do your own deep dive and learn about all the things. So you don't have to listen to me ramble on. Whatever you want. No judgments, no worries. We're all just here doing our thing. Anyway, so he also did, I don't know if you've heard of a thing called 40 Years of Zen, that it's these chambers that they put you in and they hook your brains up to all these things. And they're trying to mimic the states of these monks that have been meditating for years. And they're in these enlightened states, basically. And Vision was one of the, first people in the chambers to do the thing. And one of the girls he was with, her numbers were off the charts, and the scientists are like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And she was like, "I'm trying really hard to forgive my husband." And they're like, "Oh, really? Interesting." So then they kind of made it like a little guinea pig, and they had everybody try forgiveness, and everybody's numbers were off the chart. Like, it was insane, to the point where last I checked, as of this recording, their protocol is still to practice forgiveness while you're in the chambers, which is amazing because it gives you the closest results to those Zen monks than anything that they've ever seen. And I know Vision's done it multiple times. And since then, he said that, they're still practicing forgiveness as a protocol, which I think is amazing and just kind of solidifies what I'm saying and how important it is. It is also known to improve your heart rate and blood pressure. So I think that's kind of cute that it heals both the physical and metaphorical hearts. Adorable. Anyway, so the reason I am so passionate about forgiveness is because after doing the 6-phase meditation, I've practiced gratitude, and I do agree, you always hear about the attitude of gratitude, and practicing gratitude is super important because it allows you to be grateful for what you have, which allows more things for you to be grateful for to come in. It's one of those snowball things where if you pay more attention to being happy and being grateful for things, then you're going to have more things show up in your life that you can be happy and grateful for. So that's just kind of a fun thing. You hear about the compassion for multiple people, and I've had that, and I've done that for a long time, and I didn't get the results nearly as fast or as good as I did once I started forgiving. And there's been a couple other studies show that now the scientists will say that the people are lucky, which is fine. We can use that word, but metaphysically speaking, your manifestations appear much faster and more prominent, and you can reach more heightened states of Zen. There's a quote, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember who I got it from, but they said, "A true master of forgiveness no longer needs to forgive." And the more I started forgiving, the more I realized that that's so true, mostly because I didn't realize at first that forgiveness had even been a thing. I've told this story before, but you're going to hear it again. So I've had the worst road rage for as long as I can remember. And there was a guy who cut me off in traffic, and my partner was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "That dude totally just cut you off and you didn't cuss him out or say anything." And I was just like, "Yeah, he's probably in a hurry. Maybe his family member's in the hospital and he's trying to rush to get to him or something." Um, and he was like, "Oh, weird." He's like, "Any other day you'd have been cussing him up and down and calling him every name in the book." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. That's weird." And the more I started to reflect, the more I was like, when I practice forgiveness, I come up with reasons why the people have done the things that they've done. And we'll get into that a little bit more here in a minute. And the fact that I didn't have to line him up and do the whole practice, that I just knew the reason why he should be forgiven in my head. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was just something that I was doing, and I didn't even realize that I was doing it. So I just thought that was pretty neat. And then the more I started thinking about it, the more I realized that it was directly related to the forgiveness practice. I was like, oh, like that person would have made me angry, and I just forgave him in the moment, on the spot, that's not me. Anybody who's known me for more than like 5 or 10 years knows that I have a past history of violence and anger and a lot of not ideal things for me. And the fact that I am calmer and more patient. Patient was something I still kind of struggle with that a little bit. I'm getting better. We're working on it. But patience was not a thing for me for the longest time. And since I've been practicing forgiveness, I've been more patient. And that speaks volumes to me. And that's where I was like, okay, everybody needs to learn this because this is ridiculous. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about how to forgive. And first and foremost, I want to start off with forgiveness is a muscle. You don't go to the gym and just try to bench press 400 pounds, right? You have to start small and work your way up. And forgiveness is the same thing. It's training your forgiveness muscle. You start small and you work your way up. So when we do this practice, I'm going to give you the tools to do it. And then if you want to listen to the meditation, I walk you through it. So you can do either or. If you think you're good on your own, that's fine. Just set a timer because we try to do 2-minute exercises, 2 minutes per exercise. So when you're forgiving, start small and easy. You don't want to forgive the person who ruined your childhood. I mean, eventually you do, but not right off the bat. You can forgive the coffee table you stubbed your toe on. You can forgive the cashier for taking too long. You can forgive yourself for losing your favorite shoe and only having one when you're rushing out the door and you can't find it. Little things. I like to start off with forgiving a younger version of myself who didn't know any better, because that seems to be the easiest thing for me to start small with. Is a younger, more innocent version of myself who doesn't know any better, and work my way up from there. Because we all need to forgive ourselves. Do not forget when we're practicing forgiveness to forgive yourself too. That is so, so, so important, because every day we strive to be different and grow and be better than the person that we were yesterday. And it's okay to forgive the person that we were yesterday for not knowing the things that we know today. That's okay and ideal. So start small with something pretty insignificant, especially if you've had a hard time in the past with forgiveness itself. We do not want to start with, forgiving your ex-partner who cheated on you for 4 years or whatever. Like, no, we can't do that right off the bat. But if that's something that's just eating away at you and you're like, I got to get rid of this, I need to release this, then don't forgive them as a person as a whole, because that might be too triggering and maybe a little harder to do. Try with each incident. So I've been with my partner for like 15 years, and I can't just forgive him for all of the things throughout those 15 years. So whenever I'm triggered and a specific incident comes up, I forgive that incident and let it go. So what does this practice look like? Let's talk about it. So now that we know what to forgive, don't start real big, start small, bite-sized baby steps. It's okay. Picture the incident, and you want to set yourself in a safe space. So if you're in a courtroom, if you're on a beach, if you're surrounded by people, you're confronting this person and there's a whole bunch of people behind you to support you and take care of things if necessary. Just whatever you need to do to mentally put yourself in a safe space. And I want you to have some sort of timer. I want you to spend 2 minutes, no more than 2 minutes. How about that? So if you're just like, this coffee table was moved an inch in the middle of the floor and caused me to stub my toe, you don't need 2 minutes to cuss out the coffee table. And I want you to spend up to 2 minutes reading the charges like a lawyer or a judge or something along those lines. You're reading factual things that happen. This is what happened. This is what you did. This is what it made me feel. If it feels safe and comfortable for you to feel those feelings, please do so, because that'll help you get rid of them too. Only if it feels safe and comfortable. And again, we shouldn't be doing anything that's this heavy and this hard right off the bat. So it shouldn't be super triggering, but if you're just very emotional and you feel everything so intensely, that's okay. If you don't want to feel your feelings when you do this, don't. If you don't feel safe, if you don't feel comfortable, do not feel your feelings. But if you can, I highly recommend it because it helps you let go of the feelings associated with the charges as well. So when you're spending the 2 minutes reading the charges, feeling the feelings, telling them what they did, how it affected you, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, or all of the above, whatever you can squeeze in 2 minutes, because I don't want you to feel those things for more than that, because then it can be problematic. So 2 minutes, you do that. And then I want you to spend the next 2 minutes in their mind explaining to you what happened. So sometimes it's really hard to forgive certain people for certain things. And when you're picturing them, you want to just be like, I did this because I'm an asshole. And that's not what I want you to do here. What I want you to do here is picture, I was mean to you because nobody raised me right, because I didn't have a loving household to show me the right way to behave, or something along those lines. I was mean to you at the grocery store today because my father yelled at me and I caught my wife cheating, or, whatever. So if it's a situation where you're forgiving a stranger for their behavior, you can make up whatever story you want in your head that would make you feel better about the way they treated you. So I worked retail for 20 years and I was in management. So I was the person that everybody needed to talk to when there was a problem. And the way that I survived retail for 20 years is when people would come up to me like, I need to talk to the manager. I'm the manager. They would come up to me and they're screaming at me and yelling at me and telling me all the things. And the whole time they're talking, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I wasn't listening 90% of the time. 90% of the time, these people are yelling and screaming at me. I'm not listening because old Layla would have reacted violently. And when I was getting paid to be nice to people, I can't react violently. I have small children to raise. I'm a single mom. I have to let this person yell at me and just take it. And the way I survived that was while they were yelling at me, I'm looking through them, through their words, through their face. And I'm just like, maybe your mommy didn't love you enough, because if you had a mommy who loved you, you wouldn't be here screaming at me like this. Clearly you weren't raised right, because people who are raised right don't act like you. And I would just tell myself these little stories to help me not react violently, to let them get everything out. Because most of the time people would come in and they just needed to yell and scream and get it out of their chest. And then when they're done, I'm like, okay, so what do you want me to do about it? Like, how can I help you? How can I make this right? Well, I just think that somebody needs to know. Okay, I know, and I will pass this along to anybody else that I feel like you would want to know. Have a great day. And that was it. Very, very rarely was it like, okay, well, let's exchange this item, or let's see what happened here, or, whatever the situation was. Most of the time, they really just needed somebody to go off on, because like there was one time specifically, I don't know if I should say the actual company that I worked on for whatever reasons. But we custom made furniture, and he had ordered, and it takes, 6 to 8 weeks to actually make something. And he ordered this top of the line chair, everything custom, everything was beautiful and perfect. And he picked it up and start screaming because all of these things were handmade. There was some weird stitching at the bottom of it, like the stitching was crooked because it's the bottom of the chair and nobody's ever going to see it. And he throws this fit, like absolutely just the worst I've ever seen anybody ever. And that's out of 20 years of retail management. 25. Oof. Anyway, so after 25 years of retail management, this guy was the worst behaved customer I'd ever had. And after screaming, cussing us up and down and throwing a whole fit, he leaves, doesn't take the chair. He doesn't want them. They're not good enough. He comes back the next day and apologizes, which I would have never in a million years. I was like, no way, this dude's ever going to step foot in here again. And the second he walked in the door, I was like, oh God, does he have a gun? Like, I really thought maybe I was getting murdered that day because he was so upset about those chairs that I was literally terrified when he walked in the door. And I immediately noticed his body language was different. Like, he was relaxed, head down, like a dog with his tail between the legs. And he came up to me and he was like, I'm really, 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 really sorry that I behaved the way I did yesterday. And then he explained to me that his wife was terminally ill and she was dying of cancer, and he ordered these chairs for her so she could be comfortable. And this was basically the chair she was going to die in, and he wanted it to be perfect. And I like felt sick to my stomach. Anyway, that was a really long way to tell you that you never really know what somebody's going through. So when you're trying to forgive somebody that you don't know, or even somebody that you do know, if you're not very close to them, there's probably a reason that things happen the way they did. There's always a reason that things happen the way they did, even if we don't understand them. So I use him a lot in my forgiveness practices when I'm forgiving strangers, because I feel like, you never really know what they're going through. And the way he behaved was very alarming to me, and also understandable once he explained it. And I like to think that when people are just unnecessarily rude or mean or ignorant to people, it's because of something like that. And it makes it so easy to forgive them. And it's so much easier to forgive somebody we don't know when we make up stories in our mind about that. So that's my little tidbit of information. When you're forgiving somebody that you do know, and you know them deeply, you know basically why they do most of the things that they do, I think it's really easy to forgive them as a child version of themselves. And that child who doesn't know any better, who wasn't raised right, who had things happen to them, who didn't understand why their brain was broken, or, something along those lines. So when I'm forgiving somebody I do know, I picture them as a child who didn't know any better, or who wasn't raised right, or whatever makes you feel better. So when you're doing the 2 minutes of them talking back to you why they did what they did and what happened that caused their behavior, picture them as a child, picture them as a younger version of themselves, picture what happened to them that made them think that this behavior was okay. Again, you're not justifying their behavior, but you're hearing things from their point of view and their perspective. And it's a weird thing, but it works. So 2 minutes, you tell them what they did. 2 minutes, they tell you why they did it. And then I want you to spend a minute or two to reflect. Like, what was this situation supposed to teach me? What did I learn from this? What information can I gain from this happening? Like, one of the things I always try to figure out, like, why did this happen? I was always a big why kid growing up. I asked that a million, I was one of the kids that asked why 57,000 times a day, and it's only slightly less than that as an adult. Uh, which is why I'm making the podcast, because I want to know all the things. And because my brain is filled with so much stupid information, I'm just like, I'm going to share this with everybody because I'm going to save you the time. Anyway, so knowing the why behind, like, if I'm walking and I stub my toe on the table, I'm like, why did that happen? I know it's because I wasn't paying attention, but I think, what were my thoughts? What was I thinking right before I stubbed my toe? And it's usually I was thinking something stupid, something negative. I was imaginarily fighting with my spouse in my head for no reason whatsoever. And I'm usually like, okay, redirecting. Let's think of puppies, something happy, something not that. So, spend a minute or two reflecting what you were supposed to learn, and then release them. if you can, most preferably, is that a word? Preferably? Either way, whatever. The most preferable way to release them and the situation is obviously with love. So if you can picture yourself hugging them and letting them go, that's ideal. Now, if you're close but not quite there, maybe tomorrow, like if you're doing this every day, maybe the next day, replay the scenario and do it a couple days until you feel like you can release them with love, if that's the most ideal thing for you to do. If it's not something that you feel like you can release with love, you can imagine you're kicking them off a cliff or imagine them disappearing into a cloud of smoke. Listen, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life and no judgment. I just know that if you can release them with love, great. If not, that's on you. Some people might not deserve that. And that's fine. Like, that's okay. Like, as long as you feel like you've actually let that go, you've let the situation go. Because a lot of times, if I let someone go, if I can't hug them, I picture them disappearing and then they disappear, their problem disappears, that situation disappears. So it's very metaphoric in my brain. There's a lot of things I haven't been able to release with love, and that's just me. You might not be able to release anything with love. And again, the more you practice this, maybe you will. And who's to say that you try to forgive something now and they disappear and then it triggers you later? That's a thing that I see happens a lot. Like I'll forgive my partner for certain things that have happened, and then similar things will happen again. And then I'm re-triggered by the thing that I already forgave. And that's normal. That's just a brain thing. You know, it's okay. Just because you release it in your brain doesn't mean that it can't come back. And then I just release it again. And then and again and again. And the more you do this, the easier it is. Like, I feel like where, the guy driving in front of me, that was a great example, because before I would have cussed him up and down. And then after I forgive long enough, I just saw him, oh, maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's something important. So your brain will start to do that without you even acknowledging or knowing it. And you just stay in a more peaceful state. So there's a lot of times where I used to be triggered and I would react violently or aggressively or say some things that I probably didn't need to say just because I could or wanted to, that I can immediately tell that I'm just like over it immediately. Like something will be said or done and I'm just like, it's not worth the energy. You know what? I don't even care. If that's what you think, yep, you're right. And these are things that I would have never, I would have never just been like, okay, whatever, and then walked away. No, I'd have been like, excuse me? So I just want to say that, I've come a long way, and I completely 100% give credit to the forgiveness aspect of it. 100%. It's because I've learned forgiveness and I practice this on a regular basis. It has profoundly impacted my life in a good way. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing it with as many people as I can. So you tell them what they did wrong for 2 minutes after you put yourself in a safe space. You listen to them tell you why they did it for 2 minutes. You spend a minute or two reflecting on what you were supposed to learn, and then you release them with love if possible. And that is the tools that I'm going to give you to practice forgiveness. And that's pretty much it. This lesson's pretty short and sweet and to the point. Like I said, I will be doing I will be doing this in a recorded meditation, and I will have the 2-minute timer. So if you don't feel like getting your own timer and doing the thing, you can watch the meditation over and over and over again. You can see me as a mermaid, or you can listen to it on all the streaming podcast platforms. So, again, that's all I have for today. I am your host, Life Coach Layla. I appreciate you being here with me today. Please leave comments, like, share, do all the fun stuff. I wish you the best, and I would love to hear your feedback and share your experience on any of the socials or even on here. Like, when you're doing this for a while and you notice the changes, like, I want to hear about it. I want to celebrate with you. So anyway, I'm going to let you go. Do life. I love you and have a great day.